welcome to another edition of Social News Interviews. I'll be your host today, E-Rock Christopher. And in today's episode, we're going to be discussing the skyrocketing costs of college education. With over $1 trillion of student loan debt worldwide, parents and students everywhere are concerned about achieving a higher education without suffering long-term financial distress. That's why we wanted to reach out to this college planning specialist who claims to have a college crystal ball that includes a secret proprietary formula that helps match students with the best schools possible for the least amount of money. That's what we're excited to introduce to you today, the co-managing partner of Campus Advisors, none other than Lisa Hollinger. Lisa, welcome to today's edition of Social News Interviews.
Thanks, E-Rock. Thanks for having me on.
Fantastic. So Lisa, can you share with us a little bit more about your college crystal ball in your financial aid formula that you're using to help match students with the best schools possible and helping them to save on their college expenses?
Absolutely. With our in-state colleges at $30,000 per year and the highly selective private colleges tipping the scale at $70,000 a year, we find that families at every income level can really use some help navigating the college process. So that is why we have developed a program called Know Your Score, and it's to help families define their inevitable out-of-pocket costs, not just for one student, but for all the students in their household for all of the years of college. And so my partner, Randy Stoltz, founder of Campus Advisors, refers to this as the college crystal ball. And we do this by looking at two main things for families, and that is the admissions quotient for the student, and those are all the things that make up the student. That is their GPA, SAT, ACT, class ranking, maybe some of the activities that a student is involved with, coupled with the family's unique financial situation, which also includes their expected family contribution, or EFC.
Awesome, Lisa. Thank you for sharing those insights. So tell us, what's your story? What inspired you to become a college planning specialist at Campus Advisors?
Well, I met Randy several years ago at a workshop that he was doing at my daughter's high school. And at that time, I was divorced, mother of two college-bound daughters. I had some losses in commercial real estate. I got hit with the economic downturn 2008. And I sat with Randy, and he laughingly tells me that I've done a good job college financial planning. What? Are you serious? So, you know, so Randy and I, we've got a little bit different stories. He and his wife Patty have two college-age sons. Both are athletes, but my story is a little bit different. I was divorced, and I now have two daughters in college, but at the time they were college bound. I had some losses in commercial real estate. My ex-husband and I, we had owned a business, and we sold that business, bought some commercial real estate, but really got hit hard during the 2008, 10, 12, 14 economic downturn. And if you are a small business owner or property owner, you probably can feel some of that yourself. So when I sat down with Randy, I had a low adjusted gross income. I had some losses due to my buildings. I had just sold one building, and I had another building that had burned down. Um, my in-laws, actually through some estate planning, had put together some 529s for all of those grandkids. So it was enough money to get the kids started in college, but not all the way through. And so all of these pieces, I didn't expect that to have a lining, the silver lining that it did. But for my kids, what that meant is there was grant money on the table. And that really surprised me because it felt like, and maybe you as a parent feel like this too, my daughter's college preparation was all about taking the ACT and the SAT over and over again. And I learned on the financial side, there was a silver lining in all of my financial challenges. And those financial challenges were actually going to make my daughter's grant eligible. And for me, I mean, that was such a huge relief, but it also made me wonder why these type of things were not discussed more within the high school.
Wow, that's amazing. Thank you for sharing your story with our audience, Lisa. And so, with that being said, a lot of people are concerned about what a company represents and what they stand for. So, for your company, Campus Advisors, Lisa, what would you say are your core company values?
As leaders in college financial planning, our goal is really to help families make realistic decisions on college planning, around even if they have to if they have to take debt, to understand what that really means. And we've been doing this for 17 years, so that means that we have had the opportunity to sit down and listen to thousands of families' stories, and we've got really good at predicting those out of pocket expenses for families so that they can make the right decisions and not lead their students straight into what currently is a debt trap. Student debt just hit $1.5 million. I'm sorry, $1.5 trillion for student loans. And that comes from families not being informed about the college financial aid process. And aid is sort of a misnomer because aid really includes scholarships, loans, grants, work study. So a lot of families don't know which pieces of those components fit their family financial dynamics.
Wow, very interesting, Lisa. And so, quick question, and when it comes to the college financial aid and scholarships, I mean, what are some of the things that people need to be aware of and when it comes to this process? I mean, aren't there lots of college scholarships available for people and for students?
Well, there are a lot of scholarships, but 90 to 95% of the scholarships come through the colleges themselves, meaning that the college looks at an incoming a prospective student and looks at their GPA, their test scores. So there's merit-based scholarships, there's athletic scholarships, talent-based scholarships, maybe leadership scholarships, those type of things, but those come through the universities, the colleges and universities themselves. And most students and their families tend to focus on the discretionary scholarships that make up 5 to 10% that come from maybe the Elks Club, the Kiwanis. There's thousands and thousands of scholarships that are available, but that's only 5 to 10% because the majority of scholarships come through the colleges themselves.
Wow, Lisa, so thank you for sharing that. So, with that being said, would you mind sharing a little bit of some of the success stories that you've been able to help create for parents and students alike over the last few years that you've been as college planning specialist at Campus Advisors?
Sure, I can think of one family that we're working with right now that has um, three students, and they were looking at a $500,000 in tuition between undergraduate and graduate school for their three students, two of which are actually in graduate school right now, and a third getting ready to launch off to college. But the family was a so small business owners, low adjusted gross income, low cash flow, but looking at a $500,000 out of pocket. So we were able to help that family navigate the college process so that the students took on as low of college loans as they could during the undergraduate, because for sure they were going to be taking out loans when they hit graduate school. So we helped them discover, scholarships because they were smart kids, scholarships, loans, grants, and work study for undergraduate studies. And then they've also signed agreements in their graduate study programs so that they've got reduced tuition for graduate studies. This all led to mom and dad not having to tap into their retirement funds like they thought they were going to have to.
Wow, that's fantastic. So, what you're saying is a result of the parents consulting with your company, Campus Advisors, you were able to help mom and dad not have to deplete their retirement savings to pay for college tuition for their children. That's fantastic. One of the things that you'd mentioned was, like a low adjusted gross income for that family. Can you think of any other instances? I mean, can medium income or higher income families benefit from your services as well?
Sure. Let's see. So another family that we work with also happens to have three kids. When the oldest daughter was launching off to college, she had one college on her radar. Happened to be a California selective school that was not known for its generosity. And so we got her to expand her vision of colleges that would be a good fit for her. And so she applied to 8 different colleges, was accepted into all 8, including her number one choice. We even went back for an appeal with that particular college, but at the end of the day, there was a $20,000 gap between what the family was able to afford for that first student. And so because we had already predicted that for that family, they were fully aware that this is probably what was going to happen. They were easily able to she was able to pivot to her second choice, and it ended up to be a fantastic opportunity for her. She had lots of study abroad and internship availabilities through the college year, and so she has recently just graduated with no debt. So that's a huge success, because had they gone a different direction, everybody in the family would have ended up with a lot of debt. So now they've got second student in college and third student getting ready to launch to college here in the next few years. And so it made it affordable for all the students. But I think the big success in that was first student, absolutely no college debt, because she made a good choice.
Wow, I'm sure parents are excited everywhere to hear that that they might themselves be able to help their children graduate from college student loan debt free. So with that being said, Lisa, you obviously have this college financial crystal ball that helps, the parents and the students. So what are some of that other things that you would say makes campus advisors unique or different than your competition?
Well, we don't really look at any other companies or person as competition. It really is information overload on the internet, because a family can really research and research. I mean, there's just such an overload of information. But what they really need is to drill down and discover what are the pieces that are most important to their family and to their student. And so, again, I think it is really just getting to the heart of what really matters for that particular family and their specific financial dynamics, as well as their students' admissions quotient.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that, Lisa. And so, one of the things that parents and students might be wondering is, we live in a millennial based society now. Parents and students, again, are socially conscious more so now than ever. And so, tell our listeners, our audience, what is Campus Advisors doing to help support the local community or society at large?
Yeah, we recently launched our nonprofit Campus Realities. And Campus Realities really is the awareness and education arm around the student loan crisis. As I mentioned before, student debt just hit $1.5 trillion in student debt. That is 5 million students are in default. 1 in 4 will be in default within the next few years. And that's just really frightening. And that is because families are going into the college process uninformed about the financial side. So high school does a really good job on the admissions, so college readiness. High schools are super focused around college readiness, but that is not helping the family understand the financial side of launching their student or students off to college. And so we are really we have really gravitated towards making that our mission, to help families fully understand the financial impact for all of the years to come with their student, because what that's doing for a lot of students is making them delay adult decisions by taking on too much student debt up front.
Wow, that's quite fascinating, Lisa. So please tell and share with our audience, who's an ideal client for campus advisors? I mean, who can really benefit from your company's college financial planning services?
Well, we've been able to make an impact with families at all income levels, but most specifically, families that have students heading towards college, families that have two or more heading for college at the same time, need-based families. Parents that are single, divorced, widowed. There's some really unique circumstances around that. Families that are wealthy and believe that they're never going to qualify for any type of aid. Sometimes they're really surprised. And then also small business and entrepreneurs. Um, let me share a quick story. So we've got a client right now, and she is the single mom of three college-bound daughters, and so her income is just under 50,000, and not a lot of countable assets within the financial equation. And so she's just trying to figure out, how do I get three daughters through college at an income of around $50,000? Well, within that, there's some real opportunity. And so her daughter was looking at a Southern California school, among others, but what we were able to help guide her through was to realize that there are different types of funds available at different types of schools. And so at the end of the day, the daughter ended up with a really fantastic award from a Southern California private school, as well as our in-state schools, and the out-of-pocket was pretty equivalent. And so for that mom, it made it affordable for her to be able to send her daughter to a out-of-state private college.
Wow. So what you're saying is thanks to consulting with your company, this single mother of three making less than $50,000 a year was able to send her eldest child to a Southern California private university and actually pay the same amount of money as they would have paid in-state. Is that correct?
That is correct. Yes.
That's
Now, that
fantastic.
doesn't always happen. Yeah, that doesn't always happen, but in that particular case, it worked out really well for them.
Amazing. So, with the preponderance of information on the World Wide Web about the college financial aid process and college scholarships, student loans, etc., I'm sure parents and students alike can feel really overwhelmed about all the information that's out there. But being a college planning specialist and an expert in your industry, can you share some insights or maybe some secrets or maybe some insider perspective with our audience about some questions that parents and students should be asking, but maybe they just don't know to ask?
Yeah. Many families get all wrapped up in the weighted versus unweighted GPA conversation, and they really need to go a lot deeper than that and talk about affordability. Like, what can a family actually afford? And sometimes that's hard to figure out for a family, but there's a way to start, and a way to start would be to take a look at, first they need to know their score. Number one, know your score. And to find out your score, you can go to facet.gov. That's FAFSA.gov, and look for the FAFSA forecaster. So by a family completing that FAFSA forecaster, it gives them their EFC, their expected family contribution number. But once they have that number, a lot of families don't know what that means, because it means different things at different levels of schools. And so, it's going to be different at our in-state schools than it will be at highly selective schools. So first, get that number, because that's going to be somewhat helpful. And then so that's all about knowing your score. And that's really what we can help families with, is understanding what that score means at the different types of colleges that are available to their student.
Fantastic. So, Lisa, I'm sure that once a family is able to discover their score and they get their FAFSA score and they're able to figure out what that number is, what can they do to improve that score? Is there any sort of things that they can do either on their own or with your company to help them improve their situation and improving that score?
Well, that's an interesting question. Um, Many times it is not about trying to improve that score. It is understanding what that score means in relation to their students' AQ, the admissions quotient, and the family's EFC at the different types of colleges. So it's, for some families, yes, we actually can improve their score. But for most families, it is, this is our score. So, for example, I mentioned earlier that affordability factor. So for a lot of families, they go into the college equation going, you go, go apply to college and we'll figure out how to make it work. But as adults, when we go out to buy a home and look at mortgages or car and car loans, we actually focus on affordability before we go out and we look. And it almost seems like it's backwards in the college world, where families will say, get into college and we'll figure out how to make that work. And that really is setting a student up for failure. So the earlier a family can understand the impact of what an EFC, expected family contribution, is, and as well as coupled with the types of colleges that that student might be interested in, that's the biggest benefit. So as far as myths or bad assumptions, it's just get real about what works for your family.
Well, let's discuss that further then, Lisa. What are some of the bigger myths that you've discovered in your years of experience or bad assumptions that parents and students make when it comes to the financial college process for planning and the financials and all the things that go into attending and getting a higher education?
Well, I think the number one myth is the scholarships. Go out and look for scholarships. And then also there's $2.9 billion in unclaimed funds. Now there are unclaimed funds, and those are predominantly money that is available to lower income families that just have not completed the process. And so middle income wealthy families hear that, $2.9 billion of unclaimed funds, but most of the time it doesn't really apply to them and their circumstance.
Wow, fascinating. So, one of the things that I would expect to take place is aren't there guidance counselors at high schools and other people out there that can provide financial advice or insights when it comes to the college planning process? I mean, what's your experience with, guidance counselors, and can't students utilize these resources to help them better understand this whole college financial aid process?
Somewhat. High schools and guidance counselors are really focused on the college admissions side and college readiness. As a matter of fact, high schools are hyper focused on college readiness. That's part of their ECAP program. And so what that doesn't do, so that's on the admission side. But what it doesn't do, it doesn't help the family understand the financial side. As a matter of fact, I think that our school system has really dropped the ball to help families understand, because the cost of college has skyrocketed so much. Families need at an early age the tools to help them discover what they need to know about the financial side. I mean, if I could, I would be talking to all middle school families, just telling them how the college financial process works. Um, for guidance counselors, we've got deep relationships with guidance counselors throughout the valley here, and many of them would love to spend more time on the college portion of it. But the college readiness is just one of 50 things that they have to do in a day. And so if you think that your student is getting that individual attention at the high school level, really all you have to do is look at the current statistic of the school counselor ratio to student. And right now it is one school counselor to every 924 students in Arizona. So the numbers sort of speak for themselves in that particular area. And guidance counselors are not designed to be college financial planners. And to me, this actually, I think, is is probably pretty unfair. Guidance counselors don't even know whether a student is free and reduced lunch. Um, Many times at a high school, the lunch lady has more information about the student's financial situation than a guidance counselor does. And so the guidance counseling staff cannot divide students based on, hey, if you qualify for free and reduced lunch, then we can maybe get you reduced fees for the ACT and the SAT. You might even have waivers for college admissions, but they have to talk about that generically, and they can't just talk to the group of students that actually need that information specifically. And so I think that's a hard one, and it's a hard one for those counselors as well. And the counseling staff, they're heartbroken as well when a student gets into a college that a family can't afford. So it has a bit bigger impact all the way around.
Wow. So it seems like school guidance counselors are completely overwhelmed with all the responsibilities that they have. And apparently, it looks like one of the spots that might be neglected is on the financial side of things. So it's fantastic to know that Campus Advisors is able to help fill that gap. And so, with that being said, Lisa, what are some of the mistakes or biggest mistakes that you see parents making when it comes to the college financial planning process for their children in order to get them into schools and navigating the whole process of trying to get a higher education but still avoid student loan debt?
Biggest thing is just starting too late. So if families could start earlier in the process to understand how it works for them, I think that would be a huge benefit. Obviously, knowing your score. And funny story, talking about people that just get a little bit of information and run with it. So in some highly selective colleges, your home equity is a consideration. There's only about 40 colleges throughout the United States where home equity really makes any big impact. And so I listened to this story about a gal that remodeled her kitchen so that she wouldn't have any home equity. So that is not college planning. Again, it goes back to knowing your score and how that impacts your family at the colleges that your student is looking at. And remodeling your kitchen to deplete home equity that's not a good plan. And so just relying on information that is too generic. I think that we're all surrounded by so much information. It's hard to pick and pull the information that is specific to this family, your family's particular financial situation, and the colleges that your student wants to attend.
Wow, fascinating. So, if you're just joining us here today on today's edition of Social News Interviews, we're talking with college planning specialist Lisa Hollinger, managing partner at Campus Advisors. And so, we're talking about the importance of college education and achieving a higher education. And so, a lot of people in today's society are potentially challenging the concept and the value of a higher education. So, Lisa, as an expert in your industry, how valuable is obtaining a college education in today's society?
Pretty valuable. The reason I say that is right now, a lot of corporations just use a college degree as a filter. So if you don't have a college degree, you're not even going to get an interview. So that's a big one. So you're really doing a disservice to your student if they haven't followed that pathway to go through college. Now, I'm not saying that that's the right pathway for everybody. As a matter of fact, I'm a huge fan of Mike Rowe and his becoming the spokesperson for the trades, because that is a real and valid option for a lot of students. But for the students who are aiming towards college, that degree is important because it does act as a filter for many jobs, as well as the difference between a student that has a college degree versus a high school diploma only. depending on the field of study, it can be $1 million to $1.5 million income difference over a 40-year working span. So to me, that, I mean, it absolutely makes a difference. It makes it worth it to get that college degree.
Wow. So, Lisa, obviously you're based in Scottsdale, Arizona. So let's discuss Arizona scholarships and the current landscape of college financial aid in Arizona. What's the current situation look like?
Well, our Arizona schools, our Arizona colleges and universities do a good job rewarding hardworking students with high GPAs and SAT and ACT scores. But many families with those hardworking students they're shocked to find out that really what that covers is just about full tuition. Now, if a family happens to come from the need-based side, our colleges do a good job, both the community college system and our university system, to help fill in the gaps for need-based students through federal and state funds. And this last year, U of A has really picked up the pace in the scholarship area by rewarding high performing students that are taking the AP and the honors classes with an additional scholarship. So I'd like to see that from our other in-state universities, but U of A has taken the lead in that right now.
Fantastic. So, Lisa, our team has shared with us that based on visiting campusadvisors.com, that your company actually offers and hosts a series of workshops in the local Phoenix area to help educate parents and students on the entire college financial aid and college financial planning process. Can you share a little bit more information about those workshops and what parents and students could expect to have learned if should they attend?
Sure. We do free workshops for parents of college-bound students, and we do these in local high schools. And the benefit of actually attending a workshop is you're going to walk away with some questions that you didn't even realize that you needed to ask. And so the workshops are titled College Money Talk, because we are encouraging that discussion within the family. And so for students to get more involved in that conversation, because they are the ones that are walking out of college with that student debt. So helping families become more informed about the process. And so free workshops throughout the valley. Primarily in the fall, but our schedule is on our schedule is on the website.
Fantastic. So, Lisa, it's great to know that your company is out there to help and empower parents and students navigate the trials and tribulations and help them to understand and begin the journey on planning for college and helping their kids to achieve higher education. So, with that being said, Lisa, we're going to wrap up today's edition of Social News Interviews. As we finish up, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
Absolutely. So we've developed this program, Know Your Score, to help families really understand their inevitable out-of-pocket costs, not just for one student, but all the students in their household. And so, if you are the parent of a college-bound student and you just don't feel like you're getting the guidance that you need, especially in the realm of paying for college, maybe you're starting to go on tours, take a look at colleges, and you really just need some good, solid information. We invite people to some of our free resources. So the first one would be, we've got a downloadable report of 10 mistakes to avoid in college admissions, 10 costly mistakes to avoid in college admissions, or attend one of our workshops, attend one of our free parent workshops, College Money Talk, and you can get that information. You can sign up for alerts on our website at campusadvisors.com. And if you really feel like you need to get started right now, you don't want to procrastinate, you don't want to have your student part of that $1 trillion in student debt, you can take advantage of a free consultation either by phone or better yet at our Scottsdale office. So just give us a call, 602-840 5665, and we'll walk you through that process. But I think it's just get started now, doing something to help you and your family understand how this process works for you.
Well, fantastic. So Lisa, thanks again for being our guest today on Social News Interviews.
Thanks, E-Rock. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And so that wraps up today's edition of Social News Interviews. I was your host, E-Rock Christopher. And if you'd like more information about Campus Advisors, feel free to visit their website, campusadvisors.com, and take advantage of their free report and their free resources. Once again, thanks for attending today's edition of Social News Interviews. We'll see you on the next edition. Have a successful day.